Hello again. In this video, we're going to show you how Denodo Express can combine data from different data sources and different data types, for example, relational data from a database and hierarchical XML data from a web service, and create a unified view of the combined data. We'll create a new view using a join between the personal data CRM view and the billing information view. So this is creating a join between data from a relational database and hierarchical data from a SOAP XML web service. To create the new view, we right-click on one of the views we want to join and then select New and Join. We can now drag the other view onto the palette and simply wire together the join condition fields. In this case, we want the client ID to equal the customer ID, so we'll wire these fields. We'll go to the Output tab and rename our view. We'll call it Client with Bills. We'll also remove the client ID field as this is now redundant information. If you remember, we specified the join condition that the client ID and customer ID must be equal, so there's no point in keeping both fields. Click on the OK button to complete the definition of the new view. We can now execute a query against the new view to retrieve some data. So we can click on Execute to get to the query definition screen. If you remember in an earlier video, when we created the billing information view and before that the billing by customer ID view, we needed to pass a mandatory parameter as part of the query. This parameter was the customer ID, which was passed the underlying web service data source. Notice that we don't need to provide a customer ID parameter for queries against the new view, even though it's a join of the billing information view and the personal data CRM view. This is because Denodo Express provides this customer ID based on the information that it extracts from the personal data CRM subquery. We'll look at how this works after we've performed the query. So we can click on Execute, run the query, and get back the data. Each row in the result set contains customer information from a relational database and billing information from a SOAP XML web service, even though you'd never be able to tell that from the query we just executed. Everything looks and feels like a simple relational table. Denodo Express hides the complexity and the format of the underlying data sources and provides a simple mechanism, in this case SQL queries, to access the data. Now let's look at what Denodo Express does under the covers to make this work. The execution trace will show us what happens when Denodo Express executes the query. The first thing that Denodo Express does is to get the customer information from the personal data CRM view, that is, from the underlying Acme CRM database. Once Denodo Express has this information, it gets the customer ID from each customer record and makes a call to the billing web service using the customer ID as the parameter required by the web service. We can see this by looking at the execution trace for the billing information branch of the query. Each query, and there are 80 of them in total, has a different customer ID as the parameter. This is an example of how Denodo Express examines the query and optimizes its execution for best performance. Okay, so now you've created what we call a derived view from multiple data sources, quickly and easily integrating data from a relational database and a SOAP XML web service. This new virtual view can be accessed as if it's a relational table, which hides the nature of the data sources from the consumer. Now you can query this data from a BI tool such as Tableau or MicroStrategy, or even query it from Microsoft Excel. And we'll look at how to do this in another video.